Okay, this is Esther, Tiffany, and Martha, and we read the book Call Me American by Abdi Nor Iftin.
So this book is about Abdi, a young boy in Somalia who tells us his story of survival and growing up in a war-torn country. Somewhere along the way, he's introduced to American movies, and for him, it is love at first sight. American movies become his escape, and his ability to learn English help him on his journey to the country of his dreams.
So the first theme that we came up with was a language theme. We see that Abdi, he's from the Rahanwen tribe, and they speak the dialect May. And this dialect is viewed as a speech of beggars, and it's not comprehensible to most other Somalis. But then later on, we see that speaking in the Mogadishu accent is very important, and it actually helps him and his family survive during the Civil War when this other tribe is like in power, the Hawiyi, not sure how you say that. And then there's one chapter, it keeps contrasting Abdi's education. He's learning how to recite the Quran at the madrasa in Arabic. And then he also goes to the cinema. It's like a makeshift cinema with a TV and a projector. And anyways, he begins to learn English in the safe environment where he is not going to be beaten, and he just loves being there and discovering this whole new world through the movies. We also see that Abdi is definitely motivated to learn English. He dreams of leaving Somalia for the US, and then he begins teaching English and sharing this passion with others. And then at the end, he actually gets a job interpreting and helping his fellow Somalis adjusting to life in the US.
Another theme that we found in this book was the immigrant and refugee experience. And I remembered there's a good little passage from the book that I'll read. And it says, I wake up in Maine, a grown man, but in my nightmares, I am still a boy in Mogadishu after the basketball finished. What happened after the basketball is never in the past. It lives again every night in my sleep, and sometimes when I am awake. So oftentimes, immigrants and refugees, like once they come to a new country, have limited rights and resources. And we see that in this book. Refugees are unable to work legally. And we see that in this book where Abdi makes it to another country, but legally he is unable to work. He actually lives in a little community outside of a refugee camp where it's actually illegal for him to live. Many refugees, as indicated by the excerpt I just read, suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. And most of them support their families back home, and they often have difficulties with new cultures and customs. So the connection to course content is that socioeconomic status is linked to academic achievement. And oftentimes, because of their limited rights and resources, because they need to support families back in their home country, immigrants and refugee students tend to come from low-income families, which has a direct impact on their academic achievement. They also have limited access to high-quality instruction. Sometimes in their home countries, education can be dangerous to achieve. And then when they get to new countries, these groups of people tend to be segregated, a lot of times because they just choose to stay within their own communities, or again, because of socioeconomic situation. So they often have limited access to high quality teachers and instructions in schools. These groups are also the least empowered in our society. They have a limited ability to advocate for themselves and therefore advocate for better L programs. And language and cultural learning are inseparable. So it's really important that teachers are mindful agents of socialization and help students transition and adjust to a new environment.
Our next theme is identity, and we see this throughout the story as Abdi goes through many questions about his identity. Is he part of his tribe? Is he Mogadishu? Is he Somalian or American enough? Is he a bad or a good Muslim? In each of these questions, Abdi chooses to be himself and not fit into a box others may want him to, especially in a time when being the wrong thing could mean death. Abdi's identity blossoms throughout the book, and he's able to find freedom by being himself. How this connects to the course is that we have talked about how some of our students may not be in the United States by choice and may not have the right motivation to learn English. Having some background knowledge on our students could allow us to be better, and understanding their identities and their stories might help us motivate them to learn. As teachers, it is important to be aware of our students' identity and try to make sure we use this information in our lessons, plans, and how we choose to teach them.
So the last theme that we discussed was culture. Throughout this whole book, we do see aspects of Somali culture, some about Kenyan, Ugandan, a little bit in American culture, but specifically his family, they came from a rural area and they were nomads. And so I think they were very resourceful and they passed that on to Abdi. And we see during the war, like him and his brother had to find all these innovative ways just to survive and put food on the table. We see multiple cultural and linguistic backgrounds throughout the book. So we connected this to the content in our course, just looking at it's very important as teachers to understand and appreciate what these refugee students have been through, and also just see that they do have strengths that they bring to the community as well. And then these cultural influences, there can be cultural influences when it comes to learning and education because of the war, and then also the radical Islamic perception of education. It caused Abdi not to have like a typical Western education. So yeah, we can use students' culture and it can help make connections and aid their English learning.
So we all really enjoyed reading this book, and we think that you will too. Thank you for listening.